Today on VIP TV, a touch of boxing royalty. You don't see him too often in front of camera. He's usually behind the scenes, shouting, hollering, smiling. You know, he's a really good fella. And it's a fella who I'd describe as he's bite a lot worse than he's bought, bark a lot worse than the bite. He's a good man. It's Mike Goodall. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
No problem.
No problem. First thing I want to ask you, Mark, whenever I'm asked about you in a few interviews and went in the Box Nation days, I always describe you as the hardest working man in British boxing. Would you take that title?
Yeah, perhaps not quite so much now, but at one time it was. When we were early days of doing it. I mean, we've been doing it now for what, 33 years? But you know, first of all, it was me that went there and put the ring up and did whatever else had to be done. Put the suit on, MC, took it off afterwards, took the ring down, and away we went again. You know, and it was day after day after day. But as you get older, so you get other people. You now stand there and bark at people and let them do it.
Yeah, but you say that you know you're not as much as, but even before we had the pandemic struck, I'd be at a press conference and you'd have a show the next night, and you were still going somewhere to sleep in your van for that night before you went to Manchester or somewhere. I remember showing Ashton Underline, the Village Hotel, a couple of years ago. About 3 years ago, you put up the ring for Lee Beard, and then I think you were driving to London and having a kip halfway down because either Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn had a press conference the next day. You still do all that, don't you?
Yeah. Of course I do. I do. You know, when you're dedicated to it and you've created a business, you've got to service it, haven't you? So you've got to do whatever you've got to do.
Yeah. Well, when you say you're not as busy as what you're not as busy, but you don't work as hard as what you did, in what way do you mean that? Because as long as I've known you, you'd have a little cruise at the start of every January and work 50 weeks of the year.
Yeah. Obviously, the pandemic's been different. You know, we've had a bit of time off, but we've been very fortunate because we do all the TV work. We've still been working on that and doing whatever. So we've had a show every week. I mean, since we came out of lockdown 12 months ago, June it was last year, I think we've done 58, 59 shows since then, TV shows. So there's been one a week. It's been very good. You know, that's kept the wolf from the door. It's kept the staff paid and what have you. You know, they've been on part-time furlough, but we've managed to make their money up for them. So they've all earned full week's wage every week.
That's brilliant. So you didn't have to lay anybody off when it was all really tight.
The first lockdown we did, obviously we shut down completely. We took all the vans off the road, cancelled all the road tax, cancelled all the tax, all the insurance, everything, and we've gradually brought them back on. We're back to having 7 vans on the road. Just bought one on again this weekend because we got a hectic weekend this weekend. So, you know, we've brought it back gradually and done whatever we've got to do. So it's been busy. But although I don't do the physical work now, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of other stuff. We've created a supply business, a facilities business where we do so much. I mean, I'm building rings permanently.
Yeah.
We've always got a ring being built for an amateur club or for a gym. We're just putting one in to Finchley for next week, actually, for AJ. He's asked us to build one for Finchley. They need one of their rings renewing. We're just building one for Matchroom now for their fight camp over the next few weeks. And we're permanently building rings. Because once you build up a name or whatever, we put one in for Shane McGuigan last week. The week before we did one for, I don't know. We're doing for everybody, you know. So we're very lucky there.
Yeah. What is it you think? Why people go to you all the time for rings? You're the man instantly associated with them in British boxing. I mean, there's other people that do it, but why? You know, I'm not. You know, I don't know. I don't know them. But why does everyone go to you? Gyms, promoters.
Because you build up a reputation over 30 years. We're very fortunate that I supply all the major promoters, all the television shows with rings. If you see a ring on television, it's one of mine. You know, so you get that reputation. And when you're dealing with the top end of people and trainers all the while, people are like, I mean, Ben Davidson's just had one. As I said, Shane McGuigan's just had one. You become, as soon as they want anything, they know where to go. They come to me because they know that what we do is right. They're fighting in our rings and all the rest of it. So that's what they want. So, you know, we've got that. We've got this reputation where we do everything now. We do bags, we do gloves, we do the whole lot, you know. And we've just launched an online shop actually for it, because everything's going online now. That's one thing about COVID. You know, Amazon's gone through the roof, hasn't it? And what have you? And everyone just, I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone. As soon as I want anything now, if I want a new shirt, I go straight on Amazon, boom, 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 there. You know, it's here the following day. So we've done the same thing with boxing. We've just launched it at the moment. It's just going to get advertised in Boxing News and what have you. As from now, that's up live and running. So just to plug it, it's boxingwarehouse.uk.
You know, stop you. You're forever expanding. So I mean, obviously your son Simon's there with you. What you know, he's there, you know, alongside you. What does what's your wife said for the last 30 years? And Simon's, well, I think Simon must be married 10, 15 years now. What do your family say?
Simon's been married 15 years.
Yeah.
I was married for 55 years. I lost my wife 12 months ago or 15 months ago.
Sorry, man, I never knew that.
No, that's one of those things. Unfortunately, you know, these things happen. It's taught me a lot. You know, no one lives forever. And 2 days before lockdown, my wife had a heart attack. That was it. Boom. So we got locked out. I lost her on the Saturday and then had lockdown on the Monday. So that was, you know, everything gone out the window. But she was always very good. She's always been at the side of me, done whatever we got to do, because she understood the same as Simon's wife understands, that that's what pays the mortgage, brings the bread in and pays the bills, and that's what you've got to do. And if you've got to do that for a living, that's what you've got to do. You know, if it's not 9 to 5 as other people work in offices and we've got to work 23 hours a day or whatever to do it, then so be it, you know. But it's given me a decent lifestyle, and we've invested money into business and what have you, you know, into our own business and everything, because we've also got the sign company, which Simon now runs. When I lost Eileen, Simon and his wife sort of more or less took over the sign business, and that's what they're doing, which we started that up to cope with what we needed in boxing. But that's grown. We employed 20 odd people there, and you know, we turn over £2 million a year in signage.
It's incredible.
Which is, you know, but it all came out of boxing. We started that up to cope with what we needed in boxing, for corner pads and advertising and what have you. I've got 2 sign writers now. All they do is sign write canvases full time. We send them all over the world. We've just sent one off last week to Denmark. We send them to Germany, Canada, America, Australia, everywhere. Well, because we've got the reputation, and you know, if you want a canvas sign written, where the hell do you go to get it sign written? You can't.
Go to you.
That's right. That's right. And I've got 2 sign writers that stand there at a wall all day long, painting canvases.
Back to your time in boxing now. For a couple boxing questions before we let you go. But what I do want to ask you, I just want to get this cleared up. This Sweet Caroline that just mushroomed and mushroomed and mushroomed. Now, you were the first person to bring this in with British sport, because you don't just put up rings, MC. You play the music for fighters. You entertain the crowd with your little disco you have. When was Sweet Caroline first brought into British sport by you? What show can you remember?
No, I can't. It was on a Frank Warren show. I did it first of all. I used to do shows in Ireland for Brian Peters, and some guy played it over there just as a background thing, and it got a little bit of reaction. I thought, well, that ain't bad. So I stuck it on over here, and it just, boom, it just went, you know. And then people were saying, I always remember John Wisher worked for Matchroom one night. I was doing the sound. He come along and said, stick that bloody Caroline on, will you? And I stuck it on, and away it went, you know. But I mean, before then, I've been doing it at Frank Warren shows. I've been doing it also. I think it started originally about 2002.
So it would
And
have been around, the Hatton era, just before Hatton, during the Hatton era, I can remember it.
I'll tell you what it was. It was. It started off. It was in the Bernard Dunn area when he was boxing for Brian Peters.
So that's where it started, and you took.
It was about that time. Yeah.
So it started in Ireland first. It started in Ireland first, and then you brought it here.
It wasn't done. It wasn't done as it was for that over here. It was just that it was the DJ over there was just playing a load of stuff as background music, and half a dozen people started singing to this Caroline and doing one or two things with it. And then I stuck it on over here and put it on every show, and it just went boom, And then the next thing you know, Eddie Earns. Well, when Eddie got into boxing, because don't forget, Eddie hasn't been in it himself. He's been in it 9-10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, before then, I was using it on NSC shows and the odd Matchroom show that they were doing, because they weren't doing too much then until Eddie got serious with it. Eddie took a real interest in it and made it his life, really. And away they went. But at one time, Matchroom were only doing a few shows.
Yes,
and Warren was doing them on Sky and what have you. And I was doing this Caroline then, and it was, it was catching on very well. And then it's just, the last 5 years. I mean, I'd like to know the royalties that Neil Diamond's earned off it.
I was saying, Neil Diamond's publishing company or the publishers of the song ever sent you a drink, or have they ever known where it comes from?
They've never said a thing. He most probably doesn't even know how it started. But I know Andy Ayling said to me one day, he said, I went to a Neil, this was about 2 or 3 years ago. Perhaps it was 2 years ago last March. He said, I went to a Neil Diamond concert in London. And at the end, Diamond stood up and he said, I don't normally do this as my final number. He said, but for some unknown reason, people over here seem to have taken to it very well. And away he went with Caroline. And Aileen said, I'd love to have told him who it was that started.
Amazing. That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it's just as you say, Neil.
I mean, when you get to Wembley last week and it's pre-Wembley and everyone's doing it, at the football, you're going, and there's 2 or 3 clubs. I think Chelsea have got it as
they got it, yeah.
They do it regularly I think their players walk out to it. But there's, it's just everywhere now.
It's mad.
They tell me when they do concerts in Hyde Park and what have you now. Caroline's the thing that everybody does,
There was a video doing the rounds at the weekend about 5 of the English footballers on holiday, and they're having lunch. You might have seen it, and they're all singing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
And Neil Diamond most probably hasn't got a clue. It started with Bernard Dunn. You brought it to Frank Warren. Eddie Earns took it on, the England football team. He just sees the money comes in from England and thinks, it's popular there. Hasn't got a clue that it's come from boxing.
That some bloody idiot in boxing started it all off in about 2002.
And Mike,
all he's done is buy himself a big mansion and a bloody few more posh cars and what have you.
And you've got to sign right canvases to nick a few quid. Blimey, you've gone wrong somewhere in life. You're working 70 hours. He just has to get up every week. He has to get up, look at his bank balance every day.
Bank balance.
Sweet Caroline, 200,000 UK. Yeah. During your time in boxing, you might not want to answer this. Who's been your favourite fighter?
Oh, come on, I've had so many, Steve. But when you've been in it 35 years, or 30, more than that. I mean, I've been back in boxing. I've had an MC's license for 43 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I started that in 1979. I started promoting in 1979. Got my MC's license. So, and then I started doing rings professionally in 1988. So that's 33 years ago. And you've seen everybody, in that time. I've been with everybody, whether it's Ben, Eubank, Bruno.
Yeah.
When you go through the 90s, Steve Collins, you've been with everyone. You've seen it. Naz, Naz was a brilliant boxer, let's face it. When he was in his day.
Oh,
I mean,
mate.
if he hadn't left Brendan Ingle and gone on his own with his brothers, and just how much could have he have earned? I mean, Mayweather wouldn't have been able to scratch the
mate,
surface
can you, can you,
to
can
what
you,
Nats could have earned.
I mean, you're like me, although you've been around a long time in boxing, and let's say we're certainly, getting on in years. Imagine Naz, in boxing now with Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Imagine him in this social media era. No one in boxing would be bigger than Nazim Hamid now.
He'd leave Mayweather in the shade.
Yeah,
wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He was brilliant. But when you've seen everybody. You've been there, whether it's Tyson when he came over or what have you. One of the things I haven't done is go abroad too much for boxing. Yes, I've been out to Vegas. I went out there when Frank Maloney promoted out there, when Lennox Lewis was when he fought Tony Tucker. In actual fact, I even emceed in Vegas, which was
you did the night before, didn't you? At the did you do the Riviera Hotel? You did.
Was it the Riviera or the Sands? Was it? I can't remember where it was. I looked at a picture. I got a picture hanging on my wall at home.
Was it the show? Was it the show? I thought it might have been the Sands. I'm thinking the Riviera. Gary Daru fought on it, I think.
Glenn McCorry was top of the bill.
I've got a feeling it was. I'll check it up in a bit, but you may well be right, Mike. I can just remember the Riviera.
That's
for some reason.
It was called The Brits Are Coming. And I stood there in a Union Jack. I found in Caesar's Palace, in a shop in Caesar's Palace, they got a tracksuit top of a Union Jack, and they got one of the Stars and Stripes as well. But I bought the Union Jack one. I've still got it. It's still hung in my wardrobe, actually. And I've got a picture of me still in the ring there with this Union Jack top on. The Brits Are Coming.
Yeah, I think it was the Riviera. It might have been the Sands. I don't remember. I was at the show. I got a feeling Gary Daru was on the bill as well, and I remember sitting around a table there, and Glenn was. I think Glenn won on points, did he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I'm going to check it all in a minute.
It was a comeback he did, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and he made. He won. Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember. Yeah. I just remember Gary Daru, and I got a McCroop. Glenn points him, and I can imagine it's amazing that you brought up. That's something I'd never think of again, and now you've brought it back to me. It's incredible that the things you can look back on that you forget in boxing. But finally, Mike, is there any chance you ever giving up?
I always said I'll retire and expire on the same day. So there you go. No chance.
No. And you know what? On Boxing with Mission, I tell you what, you could be, if something happened to your company, suddenly you all got snowed in for a week. Shows wouldn't happen that weekend, televised or not. People don't realise that. That's true, isn't it?
One of the big worries. That's the one thing about living in the middle of the country. Wherever you go, you've got to travel 100 miles or so. If it's 100 miles to London, it's 120 to Manchester, it's 80 down to Cardiff. Wherever you've got to go, you've got to get there. And if the weather ever turns bad and we got snowed in, I don't know what we'd do. I don't know what had happened. I've only had one show ever cancelled.
I was going to ask you that.
I cancelled it because they had flooding.
Right.
They had flooding. I think it was Middlesbrough way somewhere, and we were on the way to that. And it rained and rained and rained, and they had to cancel it. But otherwise, we've never had to cancel one for weather at all.
What's the closest, final question before I let you go, because I could talk to you all day. You should be sitting there writing a book, because the memoirs and the anecdotes you could tell are second to none. I mean that. You really should. What's the closest shave you've had to a show being cancelled, at your end, where you might have got there an hour before or something?
Well, I always remember one for Mickey Duff. They rang up at 5 o'clock and said, "Where's our ring?" And it was at the Marriott Hotel in Grosvenor Square.
Oh, wow.
One of his dinner shows he used to run. And they rang up, I remember, so they rang up and said, "Where's the ring?" And I said, "What ring?" And they hadn't ordered it. So at 5 o'clock at night, we turned around and got a ring out. And by the time we got into the centre of London, it was 8 o'clock. And everyone sat there having dinner, and there's just an empty square in the middle of the room. So they had a floor show then, watching us put the ring up and sweating and absolute buckets trying to get it in time and what have you. And then as soon as we got it up and what have you, the tables were cleared and away we went with the boxing.
But that's incredible.
It didn't get cancelled.
I tell you what, you're lucky there, or not you're lucky, they're lucky that at dinner shows, boxing don't start till 10, half 10. So a lot of them in London.
This was
So,
8 o'clock. We got there at 8 o'clock and they started boxing. We got there about 7:45, I suppose. By the time we got the ring up, it was 9 o'clock, and at 9:10, there was people in the ring.
incredible. You know what, Mike? I've been chatting to you 20 minutes. I've hardly asked you anything. It's been brilliant. But you should think about writing a book. I'm telling you, there should be a documentary on you. You know, just following you for a week. It would. I'd say, you know, the show. It's just phenomenal.
Sky did do that once. Followed me for 24 hours.
Yeah,
I lasted, and the cameramen didn't.
I can imagine, mate. I can imagine. I tell you that.
They came here and they went up to Doncaster with me.
Yeah.
And then we was in Cardiff the following day, and I was in Cardiff and getting the ring up before they even thought about getting out of bed, I think.
Oh, mate, it's different. You know what? It's great that you still got the same enthusiasm, and I always love seeing you on the circuit, Mike, because I've known you a lot of years. You crack me up, and you're a good guy.
There was a lot of you to know me a lot of years
There
ago.
was, yeah. Look
so
at me now.
now.
I'm shrunk, aren't I? I'm shrunk. I'm out running marathons every week.
I know you are. Good on you. You're fit and healthy. That's great.
I know. I'm going to get Andy. I'm going to get Aileen out running marathons.
He couldn't run down the road. I don't know.
Mate, imagine running with Aileen, mate. I just get moan in my ear. He's the only man. I took him to see the Sex Pistols once with his brother and another, and Dean Powell, God bless him. And Andy's the only man. He go to see the Sex Pistols and moaned it was too noisy.
Yeah, he moaned at anything. If the sun was shining, he moaned it wasn't raining.
Mike, it's been brilliant catching up with you today for this interview, and thanks for giving us your time. So I know you're mad busy, and we've taken a couple of days to finally hook up. I really appreciate it, giving us some insight into your world.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We're so busy at the moment because we've got fight camp next week. I've got a show for Warren this weekend at Wembley, and we got press conferences tomorrow for that, and we got the ring going in Friday, the show Saturday. Then Monday, it's a training camp for Matchroom. We've got to go in, and then all their stuff for fight camp for next week. We've got to put the ring in on Tuesday, and I've got a film shoot Tuesday. It's just manic at the moment.
Brilliant. Well, you know what? It shows you're doing something right if people are still coming to you all the time.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Mike, for speaking to us today. I really appreciate it. You take care.
Good to speak to you, and I'll see you around soon.
You will.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.